What's going on? Boys, arm yourselves. Talking some life stuff today. I have discovered the singular description for how I walk around feeling most of the time. I feel perpetually hungover. At its base, it's not exactly nausea, though it can become nausea. It's like a protean discomfort that basic life shit can aggravate. Lights are a little too bright, sounds are a little too loud, temperature is a little too hot or a little too cold. That smells a little funny. That sound induces nausea. When I eat, I don't feel full or I feel ill. And when I drink anything, I feel like I am just putting liquid in my body and not quenching anything. Although I do piss a lot. It's like the only thing that feels good is sleeping, and that's because it's a respite from the way whatever this feeling is. A constant hangover. And of course, trying to make it go away in any way, physiologically or psychologically, only makes it worse. But reflecting on this feeling has helped me think about some things. Namely, I have no control over anything. And much like my base emotional physical state, nothing changes this fact. You try to get control of things, you don't get control of things, or you get a little control and it's taken from you, or you get a large amount of control relatively because that's also taken from you somehow. The most you can accomplish in trying to get control is fooling yourself into believing you have some degree of control, but you can't really enjoy it because you know you don't have that control. Or you don't try to get control of things. You let yourself not have control. And you do that in one of two ways, or one of two fashions. You don't try to take control because you recognize the fact you can never have control, but you're still, in this fashion, trying to get control by making the choice not to pursue control, and of course, you still end up having no control. Or you don't try to take control by giving up or being beaten. This instance is less of a choice. But once again, ultimately, you have no control. No matter what you do, you have no control. And when you think about this lack of control in this way, recognizing that you never really have control, you wonder how you're able to sleep at night. How do you ever feel comfortable understanding you ultimately have no say? And not just over one aspect of your life, but in every facet of your existence. I could be homeless tomorrow, or I could be dead tomorrow. And if that's what's in the cards, then there's nothing I can do about it. And I really hate stoicism. Don't worry about the things you can't control. Those are the things I'm most worried about. You can tell yourself not to worry about these things in a bid to control something, but inevitably, every single time that even that smallest amount of felt control is ripped away from you, you're going to react like an insect getting a cigarette put out on it. I think one of the reasons I feel the way I do, aside from something chemical probably going on, is that maybe shouldn't bother me, but it does. Intensely. The fact forces utterly outside my control can quash my best and most careful efforts and warp my reality as those forces see fit. I think my current career is not going to last. And I knew that going in. I told myself that going in. But seeing all the pieces lining up is bothering me. And it's bothering me for a bunch of reasons. One, because I can see it. And I know there are a bunch of people who want to oust me, and they are going to play their parts in that process, but even without them, I don't think my career would last. They're just an accelerating factor, and actions I can take and am taking are only delaying the inevitable. Inevitable because of how all the pieces are set up. It's not like things that could happen, it's like a chemical reaction or a mousetrap game. The mechanisms are set up this way, and the big shebang is in motion. You can try to dismiss it as a self-fulfilling prophecy if you want to, but this sort of seeing has nothing to do with individuals, or wills, or feelings. In the past, I've looked at other people's situations I have nothing to do with, and have worked out there is no way this doesn't end up happening. And then it does happen. And there's a difference between things that could happen and things that will happen. Tons of things that could happen, but things that will happen jump out at you. And once again, they have nothing to do with agency. It's all a series of reactions moving toward one outcome. And unless surprise variables introduce themselves, I see where this is going. Seeing this train wreck in slow motion, seeing any train wreck in life in slow motion is upsetting, but seeing this one in slow motion upsets me because of the time and effort and sacrifices I've made for it. And even with all these sacrifices, I'm still broke. I'm paying taxes on money that I should be using to pay taxes, and am instead using to pay taxes. I can't afford health insurance, and I cope by telling myself if something really bad happens, then I'll just die. I don't earn enough money to save anything. Each time I develop a small fund of savings, it somehow finds a way to disappear and become more debt towards something. I haven't even begun saving toward a retirement, and I cope by saying that I'm not going to reach retirement age. I'm managing all of these future brewing troubles by saying that I'm going to be dead before I have to deal with any of them. And that's funny, and it's hopefully true, but it also eats at you inside. Because the more society gets its boot onto your head, the more you think two things. One, if death is the answer, then it's getting closer. By necessity, the debts are... You ever watched It Follows? Your debts and troubles are the It Follows monster. It has you. It's getting closer. And or two, there is somehow no way to alleviate these issues, these matters of control. I don't understand how two people can make the same informed, as good as you can get, good decision, and one gets a good outcome from that decision and the other does not. And the answer to that is your good decision, your decision making has nothing to do with your level of control. But then cosmically, how is that divvied up? Right? Let's say hypothetically you do make a good decision and another person makes a bad decision. Your good decision gets you a really bad outcome. The other person's bad decision gets a really good outcome. Why? Who decides that? And this is the other thing that bothers me about seeing, knowing what's going to happen to my career. On paper, I shouldn't have been able to have landed this position. This is the sort of position people fight over. People are fighting over. It's a point of pride that contains within it a number of other smaller points of pride. For our younger but legal viewers, I'm the executive director of a charitable organization that has been incorporated longer than your parents have been alive. And I don't walk around saying that, but it's a fact, and I feel good about it. Now, we're a shell of our former selves, and we've died and been resurrected a number of times. Perhaps we'll die and be resurrected again, and I am effectively headlining at a gas station, but I am headlining. A total embarrassment couldn't have gotten my job. But if I don't cut it off myself, I'm going to lose it. And that's painful and humiliating and scary. All three of those things, not just because of this position, but because this can happen in any position. Will happen in any position. And you don't ultimately have any say about it. And this sensation, or this trio of sensations that comes with an ultimate lack of control, acts itself out everywhere. And I think that lack of control thing is a large part of the general bother. We've talked about relationships a few times recently. Lack of control is a big component as to what's going on there, I think. I had a setup date thing that went terribly a little while ago. And it went terribly not because of any particular fuck up, like you're in a fighter pilot and you bank the wrong way, but because it wasn't going to work. It wasn't set up to work at all. Who boils their steak? Who wants it? Who wants a boiled steak well done? And if someone makes you a medium rare steak, and like, what in your mind thinks, hey, can you take this and just boil it? Yeah, just boil the shit out of it. I know you're done cooking it. I know it's perfect. Boil it for me. What in what universe do you think that is going to get a good reaction? There is no good reaction to that. There's no good reaction to that. You don't get any good reaction if you're the one asking for it, and you're put in a position, what are you supposed to say? Yes, I will boil your steak and look at you like some kind of creature, or I'll tell you no and pretend like you didn't just ask me that. A series of outside forces and trying to make the best decisions in spite of those outside forces has brought me, at least, to this moment. I thought you were also an agent in this, and you have just revealed yourself to be another outside force. And now people think I am a gay Satanist asshole. To take a page from Saint O'Neill, ultimately I blame white people. I think a lack of control is one of the reasons I haven't been getting into relationships. Because if you don't control the initial circumstances, someone's going to ask you to boil a steak. And there's no good way to deal with that. But even if you do get into the perfect relationship, that lack of control is going to get you. And that's a tough one. I got the cut it off line from the Tom Hardy Charles Bronson interview, which is a great little clip. I'll link it in the description. And it was said in this context. Sort of. If your arm is trapped and the water is rising and your options are drown or cut your hand off, you cut your hand off. Don't even hesitate. And since high school, that's actually how I tend to approach life. When I recognize it's this or that, drown or cut it off, I cut it off, and I cut it off now. And in the relationships context, I think the reason I do that is emotional connection is everything to me. The feeling of love and the feeling of pride in career are very similar. But when it becomes clear that connection is not going to work and that feeling is going to be taken from me by the person, by circumstances, by the universe, or even by myself, I want to cut it off now, not only to minimize damage, but also to combat that feeling of powerlessness. If it looks like I'm going to, in most situations, if it looks like I'm going to be hurt at a level 5 without my control, I'll hurt myself at a level 8 just so I don't have to feel powerless. Even though I am powerless. I'm doing this because I'm powerless. And I haven't been getting into relationships aside from this or that because I feel that pressure of people are beginning to assume I'm gay and not in a friendly or supportive way, because all forms of human connection start looking strange once you view them from this control type perspective. What do you do with friends? You get together and you talk either about things you don't want to talk about or about things that will be used against you later, like the group text, and you eat next to each other. It's strange. It looks strange. There's no clear, greater objective. We aren't accomplishing anything. All we're doing is inviting opportunities for more issues. More than we're already going to have. Stepping back, In no circle of life is there a way for you to get what you think you want. And even if you do manage to get small amounts of control, enough small amounts of control to get a few of the things you think you want, you don't really have them. Because if the universe decides to take them from you, you can't do anything about it. The funeral that happened a few months ago is still bothering me in concept. Once again, I didn't know this woman, but a father loses a daughter and a son loses a mother. In one moment, two lives busted. One close to the grave, the other close to the cradle. I don't know which is worse. On the father's side, you've spent your entire life building up yourself so you could build up your child. And then she's dead. And you're going to be dead soon. And on the other end, you're fresh into the world. You don't have a father figure. You don't have a grandmother figure. All you have is your mother and your grandfather, and your mother's gone now. And that was a random act of God. Out of nowhere, that happened. And I'm trying to rationalize or figure out this feeling of powerlessness in the face of the universe, because it seems like your powerlessness almost always moves in an entropic direction. Or not even necessarily, because it's not like you're moving down, right? If it were balanced, quotes, you would get good and bad. And you do get some good sometimes. Sometimes good things do happen. But most of the time, it's bad things. And once again, for some reason, it's rarely so bad it's over. It's almost always like moments that demonstrate your powerlessness and keep you very conscious of the fact you're powerless. Like water torture, not waterboarding, but the drip on your head thing. It's always there. Or it's like being forced to play Russian roulette every time you get home. You walked away today, but you are spinning that cylinder every day. And even when you aren't spinning the cylinder, it's sitting right there waiting for you. You can always see it. It's always going to be on your mind. I'm fine now, but am I going to be fine tomorrow? Maybe, but at some point, no. And you can't even dig yourself out of the hole. We talked about it earlier. Outcomes seem random. Trying to make every good decision is like reading a lawnmower's user manual while the Titanic is sinking. Probably a good thing to know about your lawnmower, but that's not going to save you right now. Or, I'm going to wear a stylish tweed jacket to this event, both because it looks good and because it's kind of funny, given the circumstances. And then you roll up and it's National Fuck Tweed Jackets Day. Someone's mother got the shit kicked out of her by an animated tweed jacket. I'm rambling, but the ultimate key here is what's bothering me is you are ultimately at the universe's mercy, and you can see the way things are going to fuck you over. Like it's a game, you can see the rules, you can see the game being played, but anytime you try to play the game and win, the rules change, or your opponent transmogrifies themselves from an amateur to a grandmaster, or the RNG gods are permanently not in your favor. And even if you do manage somehow to glitch the system and win one match, the universe is going to flip the board, because the universe is allowed to do that. I am losing it, but I am not losing it to the level I need to be losing it. I'm losing it like a human. I need to be losing it like a law of physics. If my brain can shatter in a positive way, can that hurry up and happen? Or if there is a higher rank on the universal fuck you chain of command, can I promote already? I will fuck other people over if it means my RNG gets better. I can't climb a rung, and when I somehow do manage to climb a rung, I can't enjoy it because I'm going to be back down 5 rungs here soon. I can't make sense of this, and my brain isn't busted enough yet for that to make sense. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.